back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. So you might have heard about this. The President Obama hosted the 1972 Miami Dolphins yesterday at the White House. They never got a White House trip in 1972. The only NFL football team to go through an entire season, including the playoffs, undefeated. 3 members of the 1972 Dolphins refused to go because they have such antipathy for the policies of Barack Obama. Said it would be completely hypocritical of me to go. Here's Jim Langer. He's in the Hall of Fame, NFL. We've got some real moral compass issues in Washington, he said. I don't want to be in a room with those people and pretend I'm having a good time. I can't do that. Here's Manny Fernandez. I'll just say my views are diametrically opposed to the president's. Let's leave it at that. Offensive lineman Bob Kuechenberg said, I want to be careful because Mom said if you have nothing good to say about someone, then don't say anything. I don't have anything good to say about someone. I just don't believe in this administration at all, so I don't belong. I don't belong there. I will tell you that. So they just stayed home. Now, this healthcare thing is turning into a real problem for Democrats, and they've got to decide what to do about this. By the way, we just found out yesterday, remember Obama was saying over and over again, if you like your insurance, you can keep it. Well, we're finding out yesterday from UPS that isn't true. UPS is going to drop 15,000 spouses from their health insurance coverage because of Obamacare. So here is President Obama hurting the little guy again. Now, the people that work for UPS, I've had good friends that have been drivers for UPS, drivers for FedEx. These are salt of the earth people. These are the little guys. They work hard. They work for wages. They really bust it to get the job done. And now because of Obamacare, their spouses, their husbands and their wives are now going to get dumped off of their insurance. That's 15,000 spouses are going to lose insurance. So when Obama said, hey, you like your insurance, you can keep it, he was simply wrong. And here's a story out of Colorado. The cheapest insurance you can get in Colorado, the cost for that is going to go up 140% in Colorado because of Obamacare. They've got kind of a stripped-down health insurance policy that's very popular there. But under Obamacare, it will be illegal because according to Obamacare, every health insurance policy has to have a whole range of mandated coverages. Every one of those costs money. You know, and speaking of these data security concerns, you know, we've talked about this before, that the federal government cannot ensure the security of the data that's going to be on that federal data hub. They've got access. That federal data hub is going to be accessing data from the Department of Homeland Security, from Social Security, from the Peace Corps, from the IRS, you name it, all sorts of federal agencies. It's going to be accessing information from those various agencies of the federal government, and they cannot assure us that our identity is going to be safe. They cannot assure us that that information is secure, and you're going to have all of these navigators that are going to be paid. I mean, they're Planned Parenthood representatives. Planned Parenthood is getting about $1 million to provide navigators to help people work their way through the thicket and figure out how to buy insurance. These people don't know anything about insurance. Now, if you're going to buy health insurance, and we've had people come here to our place of employment to explain different health care packages to us. They meet with our personnel people to discuss options when it's time for us to renew. They know what they're talking about. They're trained. They're experienced. They have some idea to help us sort through the options when it comes to health insurance. These people that are supposed to be helping you and me buy insurance, they know less about health insurance than you do. They know less about health insurance than I do. They are completely, totally untrained. There are going to be no background checks done on these people. So you could have somebody that has been in prison for identity theft, since there will be no background checks, no fingerprinting done. This guy could be sitting down at a computer with access to the private, confidential Social Security and IRS information of who knows how many people. So Idaho is one of the few states that's decided to do their own exchange. The governor had to push it through. A lot of Republicans in the state of Idaho didn't want it, but the governor used his pressure to get it done. And now they're saying, look, it's not going to open. It's not going to open October 1 because we have too many concerns about security. We are not going to expose the private data of Idaho residents to this kind of theft. We have no assurances from the federal government that there's going to be any sort of security there. So the opening of the exchange is going to be delayed. Well, by law, it's supposed to open on October 1. And they're saying, no, we're not going to do it because we're not going to put the private confidential identity information of Idaho residents at risk. And I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that story, Idaho's the first one we've heard about. I will flat out guarantee you by the time we get done, one state after another saying, nope, we're not going there. We're not putting our people at risk for that. We got a responsibility to protect their confidential information. That's too risky. And see, the government, remember, they are not even going to check the security of this federal data hub until September 30th. They are so far behind the curve, months behind. They've missed deadline after deadline. Remember, we saw yesterday, I went through that story with you, the Obama administration has missed 50% of the statutorily required deadlines. They were legally required to meet these deadlines. They missed over 50% of them, actually 56% if you compute it accurately. And they've missed deadlines on assuring that the information on the federal data hub is secure. Now they say, oh, we're not going to be able to run a test until September 30th to see if there are any bugs in the system. Well, there always are. There always are bugs. They're not even going to run the first test until September 30, and people are supposed to be able to start buying insurance the next day, October 1. So the thing is a total boondoggle. You're going to be hearing it. Trust me, you're going to be hearing about this a lot. Now, I went to Right Wing News today, got a couple of quotes here about this defunding issue. Here's John Boehner in 2010. John Boehner, July of 2010, cutting off funding for Obamacare is absolutely something I support. So that's John Boehner, 2010, cutting off funding for Obamacare. I absolutely, now when somebody says they absolutely support something, that's 100%. I'm completely down with this thing. Now, who knows where John Boehner is on defunding Obamacare? Here's Eric Cantor. He's like second in command in the House. He's asked about defunding Obamacare. Yes, without question, Republicans will use every tool available to us to repeal the harmful law. Well, apparently everything but defunding Obamacare. Now, I lost my run. Oh, there it is. Let's. I started off by talking about the Democrats have kind of got themselves jammed up because they know this thing stinks on ice, this Obamacare law. It is just riddled with problems. I've already had mandates delayed and pushed off and deadlines missed and expectations lowered completely illegally. But here's Senator Mary Landrieu. Now, remember, this is Louisiana Purchase lady. I think she's obligated. She feels obligated to keep supporting this thing because President Obama had to buy her off. President Obama had to buy her vote for Obamacare through the Louisiana Purchase, gave the state of Louisiana some big monster boondoggle thing. So I think Mary Landrieu says, look, I'm hooked. I took money from this man. I took a bribe from this man to vote for Obamacare, so I got to stick with it. Here's what she had to say.
However, listening to Landrieu and her Republican colleague, Representative John Fleming, on health care shows how huge a divide remains concerning the Affordable Care Act.
No more free riders. Everybody has to share responsibility so we can keep a healthy workforce and keep it strong. And I can give you more information about it. If I had to vote for the bill again, I would vote for it tomorrow. There are a lot of good things about this bill.
In America, you have a right to be stupid.
So that's Senator Mary Landrieu. If I had to vote for the bill again, I would vote for it tomorrow. Let's go back to clip number one. Jim DeMint is actually traveling with Ted Cruz. They're conducting these town hall meetings talking about defunding Obamacare. If you haven't signed the petition, do it. Don'tfundobamacare.com. Don'tfundobamacare.com. No apostrophe in the don't. Up to almost 400,000. 397,000 when I checked on Monday night before the Tea Party event. Probably over 400,000 by now. Go there and sign it. Do not let your representative or your senator, I'm trying to pick the right word here because I don't want to accuse them of bald-faced lies. Don't let them bamboozle you, whatever that word means. Don't let them bamboozle you about this Ted Cruz, Mike Lee continuing resolution vote. It can be defunded through that mechanism. And here's Jim DeMint explaining exactly that thing.
Well, I'd love to know what their strategy is, because the only thing I've heard from some of the Republican leadership and consultants is let the bill go into full effect, then the people will see what a mess it is, and that will help Republicans win the next election. So I don't want to unleash this plague onto America that will be very difficult to unravel in order for some party to win elections. If we have the opportunity to stop it, then that's what we should do. And it's the only strategy right now that I've heard in Washington that is anywhere near practical. So there's a risk of losing, particularly if Republicans are afraid to take the truth to the American people that they want to fund the government, they don't want to shut down, and if the government shuts down, it's only because the president wants it to.
Now, a couple of things in there that are very significant. That's Jim DeMint, former senator from South Carolina, a guest on this program a number of times. You know, and I understand the people who think this way. Look, Republicans shouldn't get anywhere near this thing. You know, I call it Chernobyl care. It's going to be a total meltdown. It's going to be a flaming train wreck. Even Max Baucus says that. Jeff, if you want to grab that quick soundbite from Max Baucus. Even Max Baucus, let's listen to what Max Baucus says about this thing.
I just see a huge train wreck.
So that's the guy that wrote the thing. This is a huge train wreck. And what DeMint says, yeah, I understand. The Republicans say, look, they want to let this thing just fall apart so everybody will know the Democrats are wholly responsible, and then we can win the next election. And DeMint's point, I think, is the correct view here. This is a plague. This thing is a plague. I don't want to release this onto the American people just in order to win an election in 2014. I'm concerned about the impact on my children, my grandchildren, and the future of the people of the United States. And he says, look, this is the only strategy that's anywhere near practical. The reason the Republicans aren't supporting it is that they are afraid. He puts his finger right on it. They're afraid to take the truth to the American people. Focal Point, back in 5.